Welcome to Literary Journeys with River, where history, art, and faith collide. Today we explore the Da Vinci Code, the second installment in Dan Brown's Robert Langdon saga. After the Louvre's curator is found dead, Langdon and cryptologist Sophie Nevu unravel a web of hidden messages, leading to an ancient secret guarded by the Priory of Sion. This is an illustrated summary, not the full book, created to relive every clue, painting, and revelation about the Holy Grail. If you love conspiracies, codes, and the mysteries of art, subscribe, ring the bell, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's begin. Prologue 1. At the beginning of the novel, the author presents an introduction that blends history and mystery, revealing that the Priory of Sion, a European secret society founded in 1099, is not fictional but a real organization. In 1975, a set of documents known as Les Dossiers Secrets was discovered in the National Library of Paris, listing renowned historical figures such as Isaac Newton, Sandro Botticelli, Victor Hugo, and Leonardo da Vinci as members of the Priory. The text also references the existence of Opus Dei, a modern Vatican prelature known for its religious devotion, but also for its controversial practices, including allegations of brainwashing, coercive behavior, and a strict form of physical discipline known as corporal mortification. The organization recently constructed a lavish $47 million headquarters on Lexington Avenue, New York. Finally, it is clarified that all the artworks, rituals, and elements described in the novel are based on real and documented sources. Prologue 2. In the darkness of the Louvre, Jacques Saunière, the museum's curator, staggers through the halls, wounded by a bullet that tore through his abdomen. At 76 years old, he topples a Caravaggio painting to trigger the security system and seal off the room. His assailant, a red-eyed albino with ghostly white skin, catches up to him and corners him from behind a metal gate. Demanding the truth about a hidden secret, the attacker is met with a carefully rehearsed lie. He coldly reveals he has already killed 3 other men who said the same, confirming his belief. The secret has been shielded by layers of deception. In that moment, Saunière realizes he is the last living guardian. Shot and bleeding, he understands his death will be slow. Alone and trapped, he knows he must pass on the secret before time runs out. Dying, he prepares to use his final minutes. Chapter 1. Robert Langdon wakes up confused in a luxurious room at the Ritz Hotel in Paris after a night of lectures. He is interrupted by an urgent call from the receptionist, informing him that someone important wants to see him. Initially reluctant, Langdon agrees when the visitor arrives at his door, Lieutenant Jérôme Collot of the French Judicial Police. Collot shows him a chilling photograph taken at the Louvre, revealing the murder of curator Jacques Saunière, with whom Langdon had planned to meet that same night. Shaken by the image, Langdon recalls his recent involvement in a Vatican conclave, where he was also drawn into a mysterious case. Upon seeing the crime scene and hearing that Saunière mentioned him before dying, Langdon finds himself caught in an alarming situation. The lieutenant urges him to come along, convinced that Langdon's expertise in symbology could be key to unraveling what happened at the museum. Chapter 2. In the darkness of the Louvre, museum curator Jacques Saunière flees through the corridors, wounded with a bullet in his stomach. At 76 years old, he topples a Caravaggio painting to trigger the security system and seal the gallery. His attacker, an albino with red eyes and ghostly skin, corners him from the other side of a gate. He demands information about a secret that Saunière pretends not to know, repeating a carefully rehearsed lie. The assailant reveals that he has already killed 3 other men who said the same thing, confirming his suspicion. The secret has been protected through a protocol of deception. Saunière realizes he is the last living guardian. After being shot in the abdomen, he knows he will die slowly. Alone and trapped, he understands he must pass on the secret before it's too late. Agonizing, he prepares to use his final moments of life. Chapter 3. As the police Citroën drives through the Parisian night, Robert Langdon tries to collect his thoughts. The murder of Jacques Saunière has deeply shocked him. The officer explains that the police tracked his location using hotel records and Interpol assistance. Passing through the Tuileries Gardens, Langdon senses the heavy and symbolically unsettling atmosphere. The car approaches the Grand Plaza where the glass pyramid, the museum's modern entrance, stands. The structure, both criticized and admired, reminds him of President Mitterrand's fascination with Egypt. Lieutenant Collett informs him that Captain Bezu Fash, known as the Bull, is waiting. Langdon steps out nervously, feeling as though he is entering a world filled with hidden meanings. Crossing the mist from the fountains, he wonders what kind of symbol lies behind this sudden confrontation with the darkest side of art and history. Chapter 4. Robert Langdon is led by the imposing Captain Bezu Fash through the underground halls of the Louvre, now empty and imbued with a sepulchral air. The lobby beneath the pyramid gleams with ochre marble, but the darkness and silence give it a funereal feel. As they descend to the Denon wing, Fash questions Langdon about his connection to Saunière, who had requested a meeting with him weeks earlier without explaining the reason. Though Langdon admires the curator's work, he insists they had never met in person. The captain appears to suspect something more. Langdon explains that he is writing a book on the feminine divine in art, a subject Saunière was known to explore. The elevator takes them to the gallery, where Langdon battles his claustrophobia. Fash maintains an inquisitive tone. Upon exiting, they are met with the solemn silence of darkened hallways, the paintings seeming to watch them from the shadows. Chapter 5. In New York, Bishop Manuel Aringarosa flies toward Rome, reflecting on the growing influence of Opus Dei and the media attacks it has faced. Carrying few items in his suitcase, he intends to remain unnoticed among passengers. As the leader of the prelature, he defends its strict doctrine and sacrificial practices as a path to spiritual purification. Meanwhile, his disciple Silas, the albino killer, flagellates himself in a Paris cell, thankful for the pain's redemptive power. He has obtained vital information, the existence of an ancient keystone marking the hiding place of a great secret guarded by a millenary brotherhood. According to his victim's confessions, the keystone is hidden in the Church of St. Sulpice. Silas prepares to break in that very night, convinced he is on a sacred mission. His faith and hatred intertwine as he dons his habit, ready to continue his crusade. Chapter 6. In the solemn gloom of the Louvre's Grand Gallery, Robert Langdon grows increasingly uneasy as he examines the crime scene. Jacques Saunière's naked body lies with arms and legs spread in a star-like shape. On his stomach, he had drawn a pentacle in his own blood, an ancient symbol linked to the feminine divine. Langdon explains to Fash that the symbol predates Christianity and represents Venus and natural balance. Fash, skeptical, notes that the pentacle appears in movies as a satanic sign, but Langdon clarifies its pagan origins. Additionally, Saunière used invisible ink to leave a secret message, revealed under ultraviolet light. The projected phrase puzzles Langdon. Meanwhile, in the curator's office, Lieutenant Collett records everything from a hidden console. The pieces of the mystery begin to connect as symbolism becomes entwined with death and history. Chapter 7. Sister Sandrine Beale, in charge of non-religious affairs at St. Sulpice Church, is startled by a late-night call from her abbot. He asks a favor to allow a numerary from Opus Dei inside. Though puzzled, she agrees. The mention of Manuel Aringarosa, the highest figure in Opus Dei, reminds her of the organization's growing influence within the Vatican, stirring distrust. Sister Sandrine recalls with unease the regressive practices Opus Dei imposes on women. A chilling sense of dread washes over her. Though a woman of faith, that night the inner voices that usually guide her are silent, like the dark church itself. She prepares to receive the visitor, unaware she is walking into a moment fraught with danger and hidden implications. Chapter 8. Langdon studies Saunière's cryptic message. A pentacle on the body, strange numbers, and phrases in Italian like Diavol in Draken and La Mala Asno. With Captain Fash, he tries to decipher its meaning. Though it seems accusatory, the symbolic language doesn't fit a simple revenge. Fash suspects a satanic connection, but Langdon notes something crucial. Saunière posed himself as Vitruvian Man, Da Vinci's famous drawing representing the balance of male and female. To Langdon, this isn't a demonic invocation but a symbolic tribute to the sacred feminine the Church has long sought to erase. Fash insists it's a direct accusation. Langdon counters that, if the killer were known, Saunier would have simply written the name. This logic causes Fash to pause, casting doubt on his own interpretation. Chapter 9. While Fash interrogates Langdon, a phone call interrupts. A cryptologist has arrived at the museum. Sophie Nevu, young and resolute, appears unexpectedly and introduces herself to Langdon, leaving everyone stunned. She informs him of an urgent message from the U.S. Embassy, arousing Fash's suspicion. Sophie gives Langdon a phone number that turns out to be her own voicemail, protected by a secret code. Entering 454, Langdon hears Sophie's recorded voice warning him that he's in danger and must follow her instructions without revealing anything. Fash, unaware of the real plan, watches Sophie warily. She has entered the Louvre with a calculated strategy, and now, through a disguised message, begins to execute a parallel plan to get Langdon out from under the captain's control. Tension rises as Sophie's true intentions start to unfold. Chapter 10. Silas, the albino in service to Opus Dei, arrives at St. Sulpice Church on a mission to retrieve the keystone. As he waits to enter, he reflects on his painful past. Rejected by his father and scarred by violence, he killed his parent after a brutal beating of his mother. Living as an outcast, he survived on scraps until a crime landed him in a prison in Andorra. There, amid despair, an earthquake gave him a chance to escape. Exhausted and dying, he was found by Father Aringarosa, who nursed him back to health and gave him a new name, Silas. The priest took him in at Opus Dei, teaching him to find purpose in sacrifice and pain. Now, with his past turned into internal scars, Silas prepares to fulfill his role in a plan that promises power and redemption, driven by his faith and his mysterious guide, the teacher. Chapter 11. Sophie reveals to Fash that the numerical code left by Saunier is the famous Fibonacci sequence, 1123581321. This irritates the captain, who doesn't understand its relevance to the investigation. For Sophie, the message had no direct meaning but was a clue designed to attract cryptographers to the case. Leaving frustrated by Fash's lack of understanding, Sophie hides her true objective, to protect Langdon. Meanwhile, the captain watches the American's behavior with suspicion after his mysterious call. Following Sophie's plan, Langdon pretends to have received bad news to justify needing the bathroom, though his real intention is to escape. Fash, convinced he has everything under control thanks to the GPS in Langdon's jacket, monitors him in real time. Unaware, his target is receiving help from within to avoid falling into a carefully laid trap designed to incriminate him. Chapter 12. Langdon, confused, meets Sophie in the museum's bathroom. She reveals that he is the prime suspect in Saunier's murder and that he's wearing a hidden GPS tracker in his jacket. The agent explains that Fash invited him to the Louvre to monitor him and extract a confession using a technique common in French police work. Sophie shows him a copy of the crime scene with an additional line Fash kept hidden. A postscript by Saunier saying, "P.S. Find Robert Langdon." Though shocked, Langdon maintains his innocence. Sophie stops him from discarding the GPS to avoid alerting Fash and convinces him that the note was meant for her, not as an accusation but as a coded warning. Sophie begins to earn Langdon's trust, and as he becomes entangled in a web of suspicion, he starts to see his mysterious ally as his only possible way out. Chapter 13. Langdon is stunned to learn that Saunier's note was intended for Sophie, not the police. She confesses that the Louvre curator was her grandfather, and that they cut all contact 10 years earlier after a traumatic incident. Sophie believes the message was a desperate attempt to warn her that they were both in danger. She explains that the numerical code was a trap to involve her as a cryptologist in the investigation. Langdon starts to realize that his presence in Paris was no coincidence. Sophie reveals that PS are her initials, and that her grandfather used to call her Princess Sophie. Though she still doesn't know what Saunier hoped to achieve by bringing them together, she's sure he had an urgent and meaningful plan. Amid the confusion, both realize they must act quickly. What began as an accusation now becomes a mission that could change everything. Chapter 14. Fash returns to the command post, confident that Langdon is still in the bathroom, thanks to the GPS tracking. Collet informs him that Sophie has vanished. The most shocking revelation comes when the cryptography department calls to report that Sophie is the victim's granddaughter, a fact no one in the police knew. Fash starts to suspect Sophie hasn't been fully honest. Meanwhile, the GPS still shows the same position, but an alarm in the Grand Gallery disrupts everything. Langdon has broken the bathroom window. Fash rushes there with his weapon drawn, while Collett watches the GPS signal move outside the building and stop abruptly in the middle of the Place du Carrousel. The situation suggests Langdon has jumped out the window. The team is in shock as the suspect's escape turns the case into an international crisis. Chapter 15. Silas prepares to enter St. Sulpice without his weapon, considering the place sacred. He fights temptation upon seeing two young prostitutes nearby, recalling his self-imposed celibacy as a devoted member of Opus Dei. He reflects on the sacrifices made for his faith, feeling that suffering validates his mission. Knocking 3 times on the door, he begins a task he believes will bring him closer to God. The teacher, his enigmatic guide, has given him precise instructions. Meanwhile, Sophie relives the rupture with her grandfather. A disturbing scene led her to cut off all contact. She never opened the letters he later sent, until the day of his murder, when she received a message from him pleading for help and warning of imminent danger. Sophie feels her grandfather was trying to protect her, and that beyond the cryptic message, he hid an important truth about her family. Now she needs answers, and Langdon seems to be the key. Chapter 16. Sophie realizes that her grandfather intended to bring her and Langdon together through the coded message. Raised by Saunier, she became a cryptography expert through the puzzles they used to solve together. Despite the falling out a decade ago, she remembers him fondly and believes he left urgent instructions. She needs time to decipher their meaning, but Fash is about to arrest Langdon. Though he hesitates, Sophie insists he must be removed from the museum before it's too late. They plan to escape to the U.S. Embassy. Langdon objects. Fleeing will make him look guilty. Sophie, determined, pressures him. Fash not only wants to arrest him, but is convinced of his guilt for hidden reasons. Sophie peers out the bathroom window, evaluating an escape route. Though jumping from that height seems insane, there's no time for alternatives. The escape must happen now, and Langdon has no choice. Chapter 17. Fash, unsettled after failing to contact Sophie, receives a call from the cryptography department revealing the truth. Sophie is Saunier's granddaughter and was not officially dispatched to the crime scene. Alarmed, Fash begins to question her motives. Meanwhile, a museum alarm sounds. The bathroom glass has been broken. The GPS red dot tracking Langdon shows he jumped from the window into the Place du Carrousel. Fash rushes in with his gun, while Collett watches in disbelief as the signal leaves the building. No one knows how, but Langdon has escaped. The situation turns critical. The main murder suspect has vanished from the Louvre under full police surveillance. As the police go on high alert, the full scope of the mystery grows. Sophie and Langdon, now fugitives, become central figures in a puzzle whose solution seems more distant than ever. Chapter 18. Fash races through the Grand Gallery after hearing that Langdon jumped out the bathroom window. The alarm still blares as Collett radios that the GPS signal is moving across the Pont du Carrousel, apparently atop a truck. Fash rushes to the bathroom, finds the shattered window, and no sign of Langdon. The truck under the tarp appears to have been the escape route. Meanwhile, Langdon and Sophie hide nearby, behind a partition. Sophie had placed the GPS tracker inside a bar of soap and tossed it from the window just as the traffic light turned green. The false trail fools the police. With patrols in pursuit, the Louvre's corridors fall silent. Sophie, calm and precise, guides Langdon to a fire escape. The American, astonished, acknowledges her boldness, now fully convinced that he must follow her lead. Chapter 19. St. Sulpice, silent and imposing, welcomes Silas under the wary gaze of Sister Sandrine. The albino introduces himself as a Frenchman educated in the U.S., but his presence unsettles the nun. As they tour the church, Silas admires its architectural austerity, so different from Notre Dame's lavishness. His mind is focused on the mission, to find the hidden keystone. Though he could easily overpower Sister Sandrine, he chooses not to use violence. Gently, he persuades her to leave him alone, saying he needs to pray in solitude. She agrees, but instead hides in the choir loft to watch. From the shadows, Sister Sandrine sees him kneel, but her instincts tell her he's not there for spiritual reasons. Fear grows within her, as she realizes that tonight she may have to fulfill the secret duty she has awaited for years, to protect the secret hidden in Saint Sulpice. Chapter 20. As they flee the Louvre, Sophie and Langdon reflect on Saunier's message. Langdon suggests the jumbled Fibonacci numbers may hold the key to decoding the rest of the text. Sophie recalls how the pentacle held special meaning between her and her grandfather. In her childhood, it often appeared in the tarot cards he used to entertain her. The symbol, associated with the goddess, leads Langdon to remember his Harvard lectures on the number phi 1.618, derived from the Fibonacci sequence and present in nature, art, and architecture. With examples from beehives to Stradivarius violins, he explains how phi governs human proportions, including those used by Leonardo da Vinci in Vitruvian Man. Connecting these elements, Leonardo, the pentacle, phi, Langdon begins to see a revealing pattern. He finally deciphers the message's anagrams, Leonardo da Vinci and La Mona Lisa. Chapter 21. Sophie is stunned by the anagram's revelation, feeling guilty for not having deciphered it herself. She recalls that her grandfather was an expert in wordplay and had created anagrams using works of art before. She believes Saunier reused one to communicate something important before dying. The mention of the Mona Lisa shakes her. It's very close to where the body was found. She feels compelled to go see it, even if it means separating from Langdon. She remembers when, at 6 years old, her grandfather took her to see the Mona Lisa in the middle of the night. Though initially uninterested, he explained the sfumato and the figure's mysterious smile. Returning to the present, Sophie gives Langdon her car keys and instructions to exit the museum. Before parting, he asks her to stop being so formal. Sophie smiles for the first time amid the tension. Chapter 22. Kneeling in the church, Silas inspects the floor by following the rose line, a metal strip that crosses Saint Sulpice. Unlike other churches, this line is no mere decoration. It symbolizes the original Paris meridian and holds an ancestral connection to maps, navigation, and pagan symbolism. Along its path, the line ends at an Egyptian obelisk inside the church, an unusual feature for a Christian building. Silas knows the keystone is hidden there. As he explores, Sister Sandrine watches silently from the balcony, alarmed as her suspicions are confirmed. This man hasn't come to pray. As the church's secret sentinel, she understands the brotherhood she serves has activated its alarm signal. Meanwhile, Bishop Aringarosa lands in Rome, confident that if everything in Paris goes as planned, he will soon possess something that could forever alter the balance of power in Christendom. Chapter 23. Driven by her grandfather's anagram, Sophie arrives at the Salle des Etats. Guilt overwhelms her. She ignored him for years, shutting him out of her life. She believes the Mona Lisa hides the message he couldn't deliver in life. Returning to the crime scene, she grabs an ultraviolet flashlight, convinced her grandfather may have used invisible ink. As she returns to the gallery, Langdon appears. He has come back, troubled by the initials PS. Sophie, surprised, lets him in. At his insistence, she reveals a childhood memory. A golden key with the inscription PS and a fleur-de-lis, a secret gift from her grandfather with a promise. It would someday be hers. Langdon immediately recognizes the symbol of the Priory of Sion. The key and the emblem confirm it. Saunier was part of the secret society dedicated to protecting an ancestral secret tied to the sacred feminine. Chapter 24. Alone in the church, Silas kneels beside the obelisk and begins examining the floor. Following the rose line, he gently taps the tiles until one sounds hollow. Convinced he has found the hiding place of the Priory of Sion's keystone, he looks for an object to break it. From her hiding spot in the balcony, Sister Sandrine watches in horror. Her fears are confirmed. The visitor is searching for the sacred keystone. As the Priory's secret guardian, she knows she must act. Though frail and outmatched, she decides not to stand idle. Silas's arrival has activated an ancient protection protocol. She realizes the Priory's mechanisms are now in motion, and that the threat has entered their sanctuary. Though she hasn't yet intervened, her decision is made. She knows any mistake tonight could cost the Brotherhood the secret they've safeguarded for centuries. Chapter 25. At the U.S. Embassy, a receptionist receives a call from a man claiming to be Langdon, requesting access to a voicemail message. However, the system was deactivated years ago. Confused, she asks his name, but the man hangs up. In reality, the caller was Langdon using Captain Fash's phone, but he didn't call the embassy. He dialed Sophie's private voicemail. Fash, now by the sane and frustrated by the escape, checks his phone and sees the number dialed. When he calls it, he hears Sophie Nevu's voice. Entering the code 454 that Langdon had used, he realizes with fury that it was all a setup. The internal betrayal is now evident. Sophie has used her access to manipulate the investigation and help Langdon escape. Fash, deceived, is no longer pursuing just a suspect. He's now chasing a collaborator from within the system. Chapter 26. Langdon and Sophie walk toward the Mona Lisa in the Louvre's Salle des Etats, noting its modest size and protective plexiglass. Langdon, fascinated, recalls a seminar he once gave in a prison where he revealed secrets of the painting, like the uneven horizon and androgynous symbolism. He explained that the painting might be a self-portrait of Leonardo, merging masculine, Amon, and feminine, Isis, elements to form the name Mona Lisa. Sophie spots glowing blood traces near the painting, indicating her grandfather was there before he died. Using the ultraviolet light, they discover a message written directly on the Mona Lisa's surface. The discovery confirms that Saunier led them there with a clear purpose. Sophie's emotion and Langdon's intuition lead them to believe the message is key to uncovering a much deeper secret. Chapter 27. In Saunier's office, Colette listens in shock as Fash reveals that Sophie helped Langdon remove the GPS tracker. Stunned by her betrayal, Colette fears Sophie will face legal consequences. Fash, determined to catch them both, orders the Grand Gallery security guard to enter the room, suspecting the fugitives are still inside. He also sends part of his team back to the Louvre, while the rest heads to a location he believes may serve as Langdon's hideout. His orders are clear: take no chances, use force if necessary. Meanwhile, Langdon and Sophie remain in the Salle des Etats, facing imminent danger. Fash proves he won't underestimate his opponents and increases security, confident the net will close soon. Time is running out, and every decision on this intense night could seal the fate of all involved. Chapter 28. Langdon and Sophie read the message written on the Mona Lisa's glass. "No truth mars churches." Langdon recognizes it as a declaration from the Priory of Sion, defending the worship of the feminine and accusing the church of destroying that balance. He explains that Constantine and his followers spread lies to eradicate the goddess figure, imposing a patriarchal Christianity. Langdon mentions the Malleus Maleficarum, a book that legitimized the persecution of women labeled as witches, leading to the deaths of millions. The symbol on the left side was discredited, and the feminine was banished from temples. For the Priory, this imbalance has caused war, misogyny, and disregard for nature. Sophie interrupts when she senses someone approaching. They try to flee, but Langdon is stopped by an armed guard who forces him to the ground. Trapped, Langdon is defenseless as Sophie vanishes, ready to execute the next step of their plan. Chapter 29. In St. Sulpice, Silas attempts to break a marble slab near the obelisk using a candlestick as a battering ram. He removes his robe to wrap the metal and dampen the sound. After several strikes, the slab gives way, revealing a hidden compartment. Heart-pounding, he finds a tablet inscribed with the verse Job 38 verse 11. Surprised by the simplicity of the biblical message, Silas runs to the altar, where a large Bible lies open. From the balcony, Sister Sandrine watches in horror as the monk's scarred body is exposed. Realizing Opus Dei has found the keystone, she tries to alert the Guardians by dialing the secret numbers she protects, but only reaches voicemails or learns that they are already dead. As she attempts the final alarm, Silas finds her. Though she insists she knows nothing, he strikes her with the candlestick. Sister Sandrine dies, sensing an invaluable secret may have been lost forever. Chapter 30. Louvre guard Claude Gruard aims his weapon at Langdon, convinced he killed Saunière. As he tries to call for backup, a figure moves in the dark. Sophie, who identifies herself as a scientific police agent. Gruard hesitates, but her name is familiar. She's the curator's granddaughter. Sophie insists Langdon is innocent and that her grandfather left her a clue. As Gruard steps back, Sophie inspects a painting across from the Mona Lisa, the Virgin of the Rocks. Recalling childhood visits with her grandfather, she suspects something is hidden behind it. Upon checking the back, she finds a chain with a golden key engraved with a fleur-de-lis and the initials PS. When the guard tries to alert others, Sophie threatens to damage the painting. To prevent this, he drops his gun and radio. Sophie and Langdon escape via the emergency stairs, as the painting's symbolic value and the revealed key intertwine in their flight. Chapter 31. From St. Sulpice, Sister Sandrine tries to alert the secret guardians after discovering that the monk has found the keystone. She calls the emergency contacts, but 3 are already dead and the 4th doesn't respond. In desperation, she sees the albino Silas enter with the candlestick and forces her to hang up the phone. Sister Sandrine tells him she doesn't know the location of the stone, but Silas doesn't believe her. When she challenges him, he accuses her of being loyal to the Priory. She responds that the true message of Christ is not found in Opus Dei. Enraged, Silas murders her violently. In her final moments, Sandrine feels a deep loss, convinced that the death of the 4 guardians has eliminated the only safeguard of the sacred secret. The scene is marked by the brutality of the murder and the awareness of the collapse of a carefully preserved protection network. Chapter 32. Langdon and Sophie flee the Louvre and head to her car, a small red Smart. Langdon is surprised by the vehicle's size, but quickly understands its usefulness. They speed through Paris as police sirens echo in the distance. Sophie skillfully avoids hazards, including the inverted pyramid at the Louvre. As they move away, Langdon reflects on the found keystone and the symbolism of the Virgin of the Rocks, whose original version reversed the traditional roles of Jesus and John the Baptist, reinforcing Saunière's criticism of religious patriarchy. Sophie reveals she found a key behind the painting with the initials PS. Langdon suspects it belongs to the Priory of Sion. When they approach the U.S. Embassy, they encounter a police blockade. Sophie quickly reverses and escapes with skillful maneuvers, continuing through the dark streets of Paris. Chapter 33. As they leave Paris in a taxi, Sophie shows Langdon the key found behind the painting. It's metallic, heavy, with a triangular base engraved with hexagons. At its center is a fleur-de-lis and the letters PS, the symbol of the Priory of Sion. Sophie recounts seeing it for the first time as a child when her grandfather said it opened a box full of secrets. Langdon examines the key and notices an alcohol smell, as if something was recently cleaned. Using the ultraviolet flashlight, they reveal an invisible message, 24 Rue Haxo. It's an address on the outskirts of Paris. They ask the driver, who knows the place, and head there through the Bois de Boulogne. Sophie recalls scenes from a ritual she witnessed years ago, associated with the Priory. Determined, she asks Langdon to tell her everything he knows about the mysterious brotherhood before they reach their next destination. Chapter 34. Bishop Aringarosa is picked up at Leonardo da Vinci Airport by a driver in an inconspicuous Vatican car. He reflects on his visit 5 months earlier to Castel Gandolfo, where he received life-changing news. The Holy See, worried about its image, had summoned him mysteriously. He assumed it was to celebrate the new Opus Dei building in New York. However, he disliked the new pope, a liberal reformer aiming to modernize doctrine. Aringarosa, loyal to conservative views, feared the pope would attempt to rewrite divine law. At Castel Gandolfo, he was greeted by a young Jesuit astronomer and taken to the astronomical library, where the meeting took place. The news he received shocked him. Now, as he ascends toward the castle by car, Aringarosa feels anxious, awaiting a call confirming that Silas has recovered the keystone. The memory of that night haunts him, Chapter 35. Langdon and Sophie arrive at Gare Saint-Lazare. They buy 2 tickets to Lille using Langdon's credit card intentionally, so Fash follows a false lead. Instead of boarding the train, they slip through a side door, take a prearranged taxi, and leave undetected. Once away, Sophie tears up the tickets and relaxes briefly. Langdon examines the key again and smells alcohol. Using the ultraviolet flashlight, they discover a message, 24 Rue Haxo, an address. Sophie tells the driver to take them there, and he suggests crossing the Bois de Boulogne. Although the area has a bad nighttime reputation, Sophie agrees. They both wonder what they'll find at the address. Langdon concludes the key is deeply connected to the Priory of Sion and the Boxonniere mentioned. Sophie, preoccupied with past events, prepares for the next revelation. Chapter 36. At the Louvre, Fash furiously listens to guard Gruard recount how Sophie disarmed him by threatening to destroy the Virgin of the Rocks. As Collett reports that Sophie's smart car was found at the train station and that they bought tickets to Lille, Fash suspects it's a decoy. He orders the train stopped as a precaution, surrounding areas searched, and cab drivers questioned. At the same time, he alerts Interpol to block all escape routes, transport, hotels, and banks. He wants the fugitives cornered into making mistakes. Fash also plans to investigate Sophie's background, reviewing her contacts and motives. He is determined to catch them that night. Although he knows Interpol's pressure will be intense, he trusts that the cryptologist and professor won't withstand the surveillance bearing down on them for long. Chapter 37. As they drive through the dark, decaying Bois de Boulogne, Langdon tries to explain the history of the Priory of Sion to Sophie, though the provocative scenery distracts him. He says the Brotherhood was founded in Jerusalem by Godfrey of Bouillon in 1099 to protect an ancient family secret related to Jesus. To recover hidden documents beneath Solomon's temple, they formed the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ, known as the Knights Templar. Langdon details their rise to power and downfall after Pope Clement V and King Philip IV betrayed them, leading to their execution on Friday the 13th, 1307. Sophie is surprised to learn the priory hid the temple documents, later known as the Sangreal. At this word, Langdon explains its modern form, Holy Grail. Sophie is stunned, but the conversation halts when they realize the taxi driver is speaking on the radio, likely reporting them. Chapter 38. Sophie reacts upon seeing the taxi driver use the radio and, in a quick move, points Langdon's gun at him and orders him to stop. She tells Langdon to drive, but he admits he only knows how to operate automatics. After a clumsy start, they escape the park. Amid the tension, Sophie resumes the topic of the Grail, confused as she thought it was a physical chalice. Langdon explains that, according to the Priory of Sion, the Grail isn't an object but a metaphor for a more powerful secret related to the sacred feminine. He recalls when he pitched this theory to his editor, who thought he was crazy, until Langdon showed him a list of respected historians supporting the idea. One of them is Sir Lee Teabing, a Grail expert. Langdon argues that the Grail can't be just a cup. No other relic has sparked such fervor. According to him, the Bible itself has helped conceal the truth. Chapter 39. Silas, devastated, sits in his room on Rue La Bruyere, shattered by his failed mission. He has killed the 4 guardians and Sister Sandrine without obtaining the keystone. Racked with guilt, he contemplates suicide. He remembers how Bishop Aringarosa rescued him from a Spanish sacristy, telling him he was special, like Noah, whom he also described as albino. That vision helped Silas reconnect with God. Despite the pain and shame, Silas prays for forgiveness and returns to Opus Dei discipline to purify himself. He kneels, prays, and then removes his robe to whip himself with the ritual lash. His thoughts turn to the bishop, worrying that he may have endangered the only man who gave his life meaning. In silence, he seeks redemption through pain, longing to return to the sacred refuge of Opus Dei in New York. Chapter 40. Langdon, still clumsy behind the wheel, hands over driving to Sophie. As they head through Paris to the address found on the key, Langdon reflects on the Templars and the symbolic link between the Greek cross on the key and the Knights Templar. He considers whether the Holy Grail is tied to their current journey, though historians believe it is buried in England, perhaps in a Templar church. He recalls how it has been sought for centuries, and how some believe Da Vinci knew its location. Some think clues are hidden in his works like The Last Supper or The Virgin of the Rocks. Langdon doubts the key leads to the Grail, but Sophie insists her grandfather may have been among the few who knew where it lies. Finally, they arrive at 24 Rue Haxo, and to Langdon's surprise, the place isn't a church. It's the Depository Bank of Zurich. Chapter 41. Aringarosa arrives at Castel Gandolfo intending to finalize an important deal. He is received by 3 influential Vatican figures, including the Vatican secretary. The meeting takes place in dim light, reflecting the discomfort surrounding the transaction. The bishop insists on getting straight to the point. They hand him a briefcase filled with bearer bonds of very high value, issued by the Vatican Bank and fully convertible to cash. Despite the cardinal's unease about the money's use, Aringarosa insists the transaction is legal. The teacher had advised him to demand Vatican-sealed bonds as security, so he feels protected. By signing a document with the papal seal, he formalizes the agreement. Though the cardinals remain suspicious, Aringarosa stays silent about the money's ultimate purpose. When asked where he is headed, he simply replies, "To Paris." With the briefcase in hand, he knows every second counts in completing his sacred mission. Chapter 42. Langdon and Sophie arrive at the Depository Bank of Zurich, its metallic facade and neon Greek cross reinforcing its secure reputation. Using the golden key, they pass through automated gates and descend a ramp to the underground lobby. An employee escorts them to a luxurious inspection room where they can access the safety deposit box, provided they also know the associated account number. But Sophie doesn't have the code. While the assistant steps away to seek help, he reveals that without the number, the key is useless. Meanwhile, a security guard recognizes Langdon and Sophie as fugitives and calls Interpol. Elsewhere, Fash tells Collet they've located the pair. Desperate, Sophie tries to remember, while Langdon, examining the Louvre floor photo, suspects the account number might be hidden in the Fibonacci sequence Saunière wrote before dying. Chapter 43. André Vernet, the bank's director, hurries down from his private residence after receiving the fugitive alert. Upon entering the room, he immediately recognizes Sophie Nevu but hides it. Learning that Jacques Saunière has died, he is shaken and reveals they were close friends. Sophie confirms her grandfather gave her the key but not the account number. Vernet informs them that without the number, they cannot access the box, as it's protected by absolute anonymity. Sophie tries to pressure him by mentioning the Priory of Sion emblem, but the banker feigns ignorance. Finally, as they prepare to leave before the police arrive, Langdon recalls the number sequence written on the Louvre floor. Sophie confirms it might be the account number. Excited, Langdon insists his theory is correct. Saunière hid the code within the message for her, and they still have a chance to uncover his secret. Chapter 44. Sophie closely examines Saunière's message photo and realizes the seemingly random numbers can be reordered into the Fibonacci sequence. She first enters the scrambled number but hesitates. She argues her grandfather would have chosen something symbolically meaningful. She then inputs 112-358-1321, the ordered sequence, and presses accept. The underground vault reacts, and a robotic arm retrieves the corresponding box, sending it via conveyor belt to their room. Langdon and Sophie anxiously watch as a large, heavy black container arrives. Inside is a rosewood box with a 5-petal rose on the lid, the symbol of the Priory. Upon opening it, they expect to find the Holy Grail, but discover a mysterious object that isn't a chalice. The liquid contents surprise them. Though they don't yet understand what's inside, they both know the object could be key to revealing the truth behind the sangreal. Chapter 45. Seeing that Sophie and Langdon have successfully accessed the box, Vernet grows increasingly uneasy. They found what they were looking for, and time is short as the police are already outside. Sophie insists they must take the box. The banker agrees to help, lends them a value transport armored truck, and disguises himself as the driver. Hidden in the cargo compartment, Sophie and Langdon travel silently. Upon exiting, they are stopped by Lieutenant Collet. "Vernet, pretending to be a simple courier, fools the officer with a story about bank protocols and denies knowing the clients. When Collet notices his expensive Rolex, Vernay claims it's fake. His performance convinces the lieutenant, who lets them go. Once outside, Vernay breathes a sigh of relief but faces a new dilemma. Where will he take them now? Inside the vehicle, Sophie and Langdon cling to the box's mysterious contents, knowing the worst may still lie ahead. Chapter 46. Silas, weakened after a brutal self-flagellation session, lies in bed feeling like a failure. He has killed the Guardians and Sister Sandrine without retrieving the keystone. Guilt over his actions consumes him. He recalls how Aringarosa saved him and gave his life purpose, comparing him to Noah. Despair nearly drives him to suicide, but he clings to the idea of protecting the bishop, who placed his trust in him. He remembers how months ago Aringarosa told him of a divine plan to protect the way, an opportunity that arose after a secret Vatican meeting. There, the teacher, a mysterious man with precise information, emerged as the mission's guide. Silas obeyed, convinced he was fulfilling God's will. Now, on the brink of collapse, he calls the teacher to report his failure. But the teacher reassures him. The secret is still alive, and not all is lost. Chapter 47. Inside the armored truck, Langdon and Sophie eagerly examine the mysterious rosewood box containing a strange object, a white marble cylinder with rotating lettered discs. Sophie identifies it as a cryptex, a device based on Leonardo da Vinci's designs, meant to protect secret messages. She explains that if forced open, a glass vial of vinegar inside breaks, dissolving the papyrus and destroying the information. Langdon, fascinated, is impressed by the device's engineering and cryptographic sophistication. Sophie recalls how her grandfather used to give her smaller cryptexes as a child, each with riddles as keys. They discuss the rose symbol on the lid, linked to both the Grail and the secret. Langdon notes the key expression, sub rosa, and realizes they may be holding the Priory of Sion's key itself, something that could append everything they believed until now. Chapter 48. Langdon suggests the cryptex could be the legendary keystone of the Priory, a device containing a coded map to the Holy Grail's location. He explains that in architecture, a keystone is the central stone holding up an arch, and metaphorically, it symbolizes hidden knowledge. Though Sophie doubts her grandfather would have built something so monumental, Langdon believes the Priory may have recently created a new key. He shares that the Grail secret was historically passed down orally, but was later placed into a physical object to protect it. Sophie mentions her childhood merit tests with her grandfather, resembling secret society initiation rituals. She finally reveals that 10 years ago, she discovered something that confirmed her grandfather belonged to a secret brotherhood, possibly as its Grand Master, though she refuses to say more. Chapter 49. The truck stops in a remote forest. Sophie and Langdon are caught off guard when Vernay, the bank president, pulls a gun and demands the box. Despite claiming to be Saunier's friend, he now insists his duty is to protect the bank's assets, not let them fall into the hands of murder suspects. Sophie refuses to hand over the box, but after a warning shot to the ceiling, Langdon agrees to give it up. As he approaches the door, he devises a plan. Placing the box on the ground, he discreetly shifts the bullet casing into the door's locking groove. When Vernay tries to close it, the mechanism jams. In trying to fix it, Vernay lowers his guard, and Langdon shoves the door into his face. Sophie and Langdon flee in the truck, ramming it into a tree. As they escape down the road, Vernay realizes the box is gone. Chapter 50. As the Fiat climbs through the mountains toward Rome, Bishop Aringarosa reflects on the Vatican bonds in his briefcase. 20 million euros. The teacher had promised to call but hasn't. Aringarosa checks his phone and suspects poor mountain signal may have blocked the call. With no voicemails, he fears the teacher might think he fled with the money or failed in his mission. Though the Vatican deal was sealed without witnesses or shared details, the teacher relied on his word. Increasingly anxious, Aringarosa worries that a misunderstanding could ruin the delicate mission they've planned, one still shrouded in secrecy. The money's value is not the ultimate goal, but a means to something far more profound and hidden. Chapter 51. Langdon pulls the armored truck over after several kilometers, the bumper dragging and sparking on the road. Once outside, he tries to detach the metal piece to avoid drawing attention. Meanwhile, he reflects on the impossibility of returning the keystone to the Priory, as the other 3 Senecacs have been murdered and the Brotherhood is compromised. He believes their only option is to seek outside help. Inside the truck, Sophie tries to crack the cryptex password with guesses like Grail, Vinci, and Key, all unsuccessful. She feels overwhelmed by the burden her grandfather left her. Langdon decides they should visit Lee Teabing, an eccentric British historian and Grail expert who lives near Versailles. He believes that without disclosing too much, they can still get his help. Sophie, still cautious, agrees to the plan. Langdon feels hopeful. Maybe Teabing holds the answers they desperately need. Chapter 52. Chateau Villette looms impressively before Sophie and Langdon, a Baroque mansion surrounded by gardens designed by Lenotre. They park the truck off the road to avoid attention and hide the cryptex box under the living room divan. The butler, Remy Ligaludec, greets them with obvious displeasure while he prepares tea and lights the fireplace. The house's interior is majestic. Suits of armor, tapestries, a sculpture of Isis, and an atmosphere of history and mystery fill every corner. Sophie, sitting beside Langdon, fondly recalls her bond with her grandfather and how he used to soothe her fears, even with the gargoyles of Notre Dame. When Sir Lee Teabing finally appears, a heavy-set man with leg braces and eccentric humor, he greets them enthusiastically. Despite his odd demeanor, Teabing shows immediate interest when Langdon mentions the Priory of Sion and promises to help in any way he can. Chapter 53. As police occupy the Depository Bank of Zurich, the duty manager is surprised to receive an urgent call from André Vernet himself. Vernet, concerned, informs him that armored truck number 3 has been stolen by fugitives wanted by Interpol and must be located immediately. Despite knowing that activating the tracker will alert the authorities, Vernet orders it done anyway. The manager, puzzled, complies and activates the radio frequency tracking system. Instantly, a small device hidden under the truck begins transmitting a signal. Coordinates are automatically sent to law enforcement. Though clearly compromised, Vernet knows he can't stop the events now, but at least he wants to know where Langdon and Sophie are headed. What was once an attempt to contain damage now becomes an active pursuit, as the bank tries to salvage its reputation. Chapter 54. Upon arriving at the majestic Chateau Villette, Sophie feels relieved. The place seems like the perfect hideout. Langdon is received like an old friend by the butler Remy, and they hide the cryptex box under the living room divan. Sophie is amazed by the aristocratic decor, and memories of her grandfather return as she sees the gargoyles, reminding her of the cryptex's importance. Teabing descends the stairs with difficulty but great dignity, joking with Langdon and greeting Sophie with theatrical chivalry. His eccentric personality contrasts with his deep knowledge of the Grail. When he learns Sophie doesn't know the true nature of the Grail, he lights up like a child on Christmas. Langdon asks him to explain its history, and Teabing eagerly agrees. Upon hearing that Sophie is a Grail virgin, he becomes even more excited. The room fills with anticipation. An ancient secret challenging Christianity's official history is about to be revealed. Chapter 55. While drinking tea with Langdon, Sophie listens intently to Teabing, who introduces the Holy Grail not as a physical object but as a powerful symbol. He explains that understanding it requires revisiting the Bible's history and its political manipulation. He claims the Bible was assembled by men who selected only certain Gospels, out of more than 80, under the influence of Emperor Constantine, who aimed to unify Rome through Christianity. Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea, where Jesus' divinity was voted on, turning him from mortal prophet into the Son of God. In doing so, Gospels that depicted Jesus' human side were excluded, and heretical texts were destroyed. Teabing reveals that documents like the Gospel of Philip and the Nag Hammadi manuscripts present Jesus as a man, which threatens the Church's power. Sophie is shocked by these revelations. Chapter 56. Sophie is astonished to learn that the figure sitting to Jesus' right in the Last Supper is not a man but a woman, Mary Magdalene. T-Bing and Langdon explain that this detail was overlooked for centuries due to church-imposed interpretations. Through symbolic analysis, they reveal how Leonardo embedded clues in the painting, such as the inverse colors of their garments, their positioning forming a chalice, and a mysterious M in the composition, associated with Mary or marriage. T-Bing claims the early church discredited Magdalene to hide her true role as Jesus' wife. Langdon adds that it was unthinkable in Jesus' time for a Jewish man not to be married, reinforcing the theory of their union. Chapter 57. While Lieutenant Collett awaits a search warrant for the bank, he receives an anonymous tip about Langdon and Sophie's location, an estate near Versailles. Convinced this could be his career-making moment, he heads there without sirens to avoid alerting the suspects. Meanwhile, Silas silently arrives at the outskirts of Chateau Valette, guided by directions from the teacher. Seeing lights on the ground floor, he feels certain the information is accurate. Determined to retrieve the keystone, Silas throws his gun over the fence and climbs it, ignoring the pain of his Silas. After retrieving the weapon, he begins stealthily ascending the hill, ready to complete his mission. Unaware of each other's presence, the adversaries converge, and the estate becomes a place of imminent confrontation. Chapter 58. In T-Bing's vast study, surrounded by books and artifacts, Sophie sees a blown-up version of the Last Supper and is stunned to see that the figure to Jesus' right is clearly a woman, Mary Magdalene. T-Bing asserts that the church erased her identity, labeling her a prostitute to diminish her importance. He claims she was not only close to Jesus but also his wife. Citing Gnostic Gospels like that of Philip, he highlights references to her as Jesus' companion, a word that meant wife at the time. Sophie recalls a childhood episode where a priest argued with her grandfather over his support for the film The Last Temptation of Christ. The memory confirms Saunier's belief in Jesus' humanity. T-Bing adds that Magdalene belonged to the House of Benjamin, and her union with Jesus united two royal bloodlines, posing a political threat to the church. Chapter 59. While traveling by Fiat to Ciampino Airport, Bishop Aringarosa is relieved to hear he received an important call at Opus Dei headquarters. Though puzzled by phone interference, he assumes the teacher tried to contact him directly. He dials the number left by the receptionist and is surprised when a French judicial police operator answers. Hesitant at first, he finally reveals his identity. He is connected to an agent who says they have many matters to discuss. Though confused, Aringarosa senses that the night in Paris didn't unfold as expected. Still, he hopes things will align. He reviews the mission's purpose and the contents of the briefcase he carries, too important to risk on a commercial flight. The private jet awaiting him will take him straight to France, where the outcome of a critical mission awaits. Chapter 60. Sophie absorbs the theory that Mary Magdalene was Jesus' wife and bore his bloodline. T-Bing shows her several books, including the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, supporting this idea. They explain that the Vatican tried to suppress Magdalene because her existence and possible descendants undermined Jesus' divine image. The five-petaled rose engraved on the cryptex symbolizes Magdalene and the feminine divine. T-Bing argues the church redirected goddess worship into male-centered religion. According to him, Mary fled pregnant to France after the crucifixion and gave birth to Sarah. Their descendants founded the Merovingian dynasty, protected by the Priory of Sion. Sophie shudders at the idea that Jesus might have living descendants. T-Bing reveals that the Grail also contains ancient documents, including writings by Magdalene, and perhaps even by Jesus, hidden in a sarcophagus that symbolizes the Grail. Chapter 61. Sophie is overcome by confusion and hope as she gazes at the Last Supper, noticing the image of Mary Magdalene beside Jesus. Langdon tries to comfort her and explains that the story of the Grail has always been present in art, literature, and music, symbolically transmitted to elude censorship. He cites examples such as works by Leonardo da Vinci, Botticelli, Poussin, Bernini, Mozart, and Victor Hugo, who disseminated hidden messages about the feminine divine. He also mentions how Walt Disney incorporated Grail symbols in films like Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, where the protagonist represents the hidden goddess. Even modern films contain symbolic references alluding to the Grail, such as the name Ariel in The Little Mermaid, linked to the Holy City under siege in the Book of Isaiah. Sophie begins to see patterns where before she hadn't. Just then, Teabing bursts in with a serious and accusatory look, pointing at Langdon for having hidden something important from him. Chapter 62. Langdon and Sophie arrive at Lee Teabing's mansion seeking help regarding the key Jacques Saunier left behind, but Lee receives them with suspicion, believing Langdon has abused their friendship. However, the mention of the clef de voûte sparks his interest, leading them to reveal that Sophie is Saunier's granddaughter and that he was the Grand Master of the Priory. Lee is shocked by the magnitude of the secret and fears the murder of the 3 Senecoques was part of a planned operation to eradicate the Priory. Meanwhile, Silas, hidden outside, watches eagerly, hoping to recover the key. Lee theorizes that the Church, fearing the imminent revelation of the Grail in this new astrological age, orchestrated the killings. Sophie reveals that the key was hidden in a box adorned with a rose and is now concealed, astonishing Lee. They decide it must be protected at all costs. Chapter 63. As Teabing examines the rosewood box, Langdon discovers a hidden compartment beneath the rose, revealing a text in an unknown language. Before he can analyze it, he is struck suddenly and falls unconscious. Silas has broken into the house and points a gun at Sophie and Teabing, demanding the cryptex. Teabing, feigning difficulty moving, uses his crutch to strike Silas right on the sillis, causing a shot to be fired that alerts police outside the mansion. Sophie manages to subdue him while Remy rushes in, alarmed. Colette, hearing the shot, disobeys Fash's orders and gives the command to enter. As they inspect the grounds, they find a rental car and an armored bank truck, confirming more people are involved in the escape. Meanwhile, Bishop Aringarosa, flying north, prays in distress after a call that didn't go as expected. Tension mounts on all fronts. Chapter 64. Teabing, fascinated, finally examines the Priory's box and carefully extracts the cryptex, a marble cylinder with inscriptions, inspired by the notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci. Sophie and Langdon explain how it works and the fragility of the contents, protected by vinegar that would destroy the message if forced open. Langdon recalls the expression "under the rose" and detects a hidden compartment, releasing the carved emblem and uncovering a text in an unrecognizable language. At that moment, Silas bursts in armed and knocks Langdon out. Elsewhere, Colette and his agents storm the mansion but find no one. Following sounds toward a bedroom, they discover they've been tricked via intercoms. They locate the garage, which contains every luxury car except one, the Range Rover. The back wall of the shed is open, revealing a hidden path into the forest. Realizing the fugitives have escaped, Colette organizes a search. Chapter 65. With Langdon unconscious, Sophie and Teabing face Silas, who demands the cryptex. Teabing remains calm and, pretending to struggle, feigns handing it over, drawing the monk closer and lowering his gun. Seizing the moment, Teabing strikes him with his crutch in the thigh, where Silas wears his sillis, causing intense pain. Silas collapses and fires into the ground without hitting anyone, giving Sophie the chance to kick and immobilize him. The butler Remy arrives late, shocked by the scene, while Sophie and Teabing fill him in and tie the monk up. Langdon, dazed, recovers with an ice pack, trying to make sense of what happened. Teabing explains his knowledge of Opus Dei and the Silas, confirming the attacker's identity. Sophie shows the rose extracted from the lid, and Langdon mentions the hidden message. Outside, police sirens approach, forcing them to make a quick decision. Chapter 66. Colette and his men burst into the mansion armed but don't find the fugitives. They go upstairs following voices, only to discover they come from an intercom activated in a bedroom. Upon arrival, the room is empty. Only electrical tape, a Silas belt, and signs of a struggle remain. Colette deduces the audio system was used to mislead them. Following the sound of an engine, they find a shed converted into a garage with luxury cars. All vehicles are present except the Range Rover, and its key is also missing from the board. The back wall of the shed is open, revealing a hidden trail into the forest, confirming the escape. Collet organizes a search, suspecting the fugitives won't get far. Meanwhile, Fash learns that a private jet took off from Le Bourget without a flight plan. He knows he must act quickly before it crosses the border. Chapter 67. Inside the Range Rover, Langdon, Sophie, T-Bing, and Remy escape through a hidden trail from the chateau, with the incapacitated Silas in the trunk. T-Bing is euphoric about the adventure and reveals he has arranged for his private jet, Elizabeth, to fly them to England, where he believes they'll find the next step toward the Grail. Silas, bound, struggles to breathe until T-Bing tears off the tape covering his mouth, surprising everyone with his compassion toward an enemy. He questions Silas about his master, but the monk remains silent. Langdon, deep in thought, asks Sophie for the phone and calls his editor in New York. He discovers that Jonas Faulkman had sent his manuscript to Jacques Saunière a month ago, which might have triggered everything. At the airport, the pilot initially refuses to let them board, but T-Bing convinces him with money and authority. They all board the jet, headed for London, with the cryptex safely hidden. Chapter 68. Langdon calls Jonas Faulkman to confirm a suspicion. His editor had sent his manuscript to Jacques Saunière without telling him, asking for a back cover quote. The book included information about goddess worship and references to the Priory, which might explain why Saunière wanted to contact him. T-Bing mocks the coincidence, claiming Langdon had unknowingly handed his work to a key member of the Priory. Langdon confirms his treatment of the subject was neutral, but it included references to the key, something that may have triggered the Grand Master's alarm. Sophie concludes this may have motivated the message her grandfather left at the crime scene. Meanwhile, the group arrives at Le Bourget Airport, where T-Bing bribes the pilot to take them all in his jet, including the hooded figure of Silas. T-Bing takes command of the situation, confident that the next step toward the Grail awaits them in London. Chapter 69. Aboard the luxurious jet, Sophie, Langdon, and T-Bing discuss the Grail's destiny. Lee stresses the importance of assuming responsibility for safeguarding the secret her grandfather entrusted to her, warning that once the map to the Grail is revealed, there will be no turning back. Sophie acknowledges the emotional and personal weight of the cryptex, seeing in it a connection to her past. Lee suggests the Priory's destruction means no one can be trusted anymore, and that the Brotherhood intended to reveal the truth at the right time, likely now. Langdon tries to ease the pressure on Sophie, but she stands firm, saying the Grail has found her for a reason. T-Bing, satisfied, accepts her resolve. At the back of the plane, Remy watches over Silas, who silently prays for a miracle. Langdon, deep in thought, wonders whether the key truly points to London, as their fate becomes entwined with centuries of secrets. Chapter 70. At Chateau Valette, Collet faces Fash's wrath for disobeying orders. Although the mansion entry was justified by a gunshot, the fugitives escaped. Forensic police discover a rental car with false documentation and a bank truck, suggesting deeper implications. Fash receives a call. André Vernet has decided to cooperate, demanding confidentiality in return. He states that Langdon and Sophie took something from Saunière's account, though he doesn't say what. Shortly afterward, they discover that T-Bing owns a private jet at Le Bourget, which took off without a flight plan. Police suspect that's how they fled. Collet is assigned to continue the investigation on site. Meanwhile, Fash heads to the airport to try to intercept the flight. The tension escalates. The pursuers now know the direction of the escape, and the secret of the Grail may already be flying beyond the reach of French justice. Chapter 71. During the flight to England, Langdon closely examines the rosewood box, focusing on the hidden text beneath the embedded rose. Although he suspects the language has Semitic roots, he can't identify it. T-Bing studies it too, noting similarities with Rashi script or Stam Hebrew, but he also fails to decipher it. The surprise comes when Sophie asks to see the text and immediately recognizes it. Her grandfather had taught her that language when she was 6. It's mirror writing in the style of Leonardo da Vinci. Holding the box up to the light, Sophie demonstrates that the lid is thin enough to read the message in reverse, revealing the text correctly. Langdon is astonished, recalling his experience with Leonardo's Codex Leicester. Sophie begins reading the message while Remy, at the back of the plane, watches anxiously. He suspects the situation is slipping from his control, while Silas remains silent and nearly motionless. Chapter 72. Langdon, Sophie, and T-Bing analyze the poem Saunière wrote, revealed through the translucent lid of the cryptex. The text, written in hendecasyllabic verse, refers to a tomb revered by Templars, a wise word, and the Atbash code as the tool to find the key. Sophie remembers studying Atbash in cryptology, a Hebrew substitution cipher that reverses letters. T-Bing confirms its significance in the Kabbalah and ancient texts. However, they realize they still lack the encrypted word to decode. Sophie, uneasy, senses there's a hidden meaning still unrevealed. T-Bing leaves to check on Silas and grab something to eat. Sophie, tired, fears the cryptex may not contain a literal map, but something more complex. Based on her experience with Saunière, she knows her grandfather would never have given up the secret so easily. Frustrated and weary, the three remain deep in thought, trying to uncover the next clue. Chapter 73. At Le Bourget, Fash bursts into the control tower, demanding to know the destination of Lee T-Bing's private jet. The frightened air traffic controller reveals that the plane usually flies to Biggin Hill Executive Airport in Kent, where T-Bing receives medical treatments. Upon learning that the flight has already crossed the border without a flight plan, Fash acts quickly and orders contact with the local Kent police, not national agencies. He demands that the plane be surrounded upon landing and that all airport flights be cancelled. Pressured, the controller agrees to cooperate. Meanwhile, the jet is already en route to England. Fash arranges his own transport, aiming to intercept Langdon, Sophie, and T-Bing before they disappear in London. The tension builds as time ticks down, with the landing potentially marking the end of the chase, or the beginning of a new obstacle. Chapter 74. During a quiet moment on the plane, Langdon carefully brings up the subject that estranged Sophie from her grandfather. Through gentle questioning, he gets her to admit she had accidentally witnessed a mysterious ritual during a vacation. Sophie describes a ceremony held by men and women in white and black robes, masks, and golden spheres, chanting in a candlelit cellar. At the center of the circle, on an altar, a naked man, her grandfather, took part in a ritualistic sexual act with a masked woman. Langdon explains that she witnessed a hieros gamos, an ancient spiritual ceremony celebrating the sacred union of masculine and feminine as a path to experiencing God. Sophie listens attentively as Langdon demystifies her fears, explaining the deep spiritual meaning of the scene. For the first time, Sophie begins to see her grandfather in a new light, caught between conflicting emotions. Chapter 75. Aboard a private jet flying over Monaco, Bishop Aringarosa, utterly exhausted, tries to convince the pilot to change course to London. At first, the pilot resists, but eventually agrees after receiving a Vatican bond and noticing the bishop's ring, a symbol of high rank. Desperate, Aringarosa even gives up his episcopal ring, knowing his situation is falling apart. Despite his sacrifice, he feels everything he built is unraveling. The sacred cause he defended has turned into a nightmare. His faith begins to waver as he heads to England, hoping to repair, or at least understand, the errors that caused the chaos. Aringarosa recalls his involvement with Silas and Opus Dei and fears his choices may have taken him too far. The journey to London now represents not only a physical shift in direction, but a final attempt at redemption. Chapter 76. Still affected by Sophie's story, Langdon tries to distract himself with the poem from the cryptex. T-Bing joins them with refreshments and insists on solving the reference to a tomb revered by Templars. As dawn breaks over the English Channel, Langdon has a revelation. It's not a literal tomb but a stone head worshipped by the Templars, known as Baphomet. He explains that during the Inquisition, the Church accused the Templars of idolatry for venerating this head, once a symbol of fertility, later demonized by Rome. T-Bing, excited, confirms that Baphomet fits the poem's description. But Sophie points out a problem. Baphomet has 8 letters, while the cryptex allows only 5. That's when T-Bing remembers they must apply the @bash cipher. Excitement builds as they prepare to decipher the code. Langdon feels they're getting closer to the next step in the Grail mystery. Chapter 77. Using the @bash cipher, T-Bing and Sophie convert the word Baphomet into its Hebrew equivalents without vowels, BPVMTH. Using a substitution table, they transform the letters into SHVPYA. At first, the word seems unfamiliar, but Langdon suddenly realizes it's Sophia, the Greek root of Sophie's name, meaning wisdom. The poem had said a wise, ancient word, and the connection becomes clear and moving. Sophie, emotional, understands that her grandfather used her name as the key. However, the cryptex only allows 5 letters, and Sophie has 6. T-Bing clarifies that in ancient Greek it was spelled Sophia, with 5 letters. The revelation deeply impacts them. Sophie, in tears, feels a profound bond with her grandfather, recognizing in this gesture his love and trust. The group prepares to open the cryptex with the new password, feeling that they're finally on the right path toward the mystery of the Grail. Chapter 78. With trembling hands, Sophie enters the word Sophia on the cryptex's rotating discs. She opens it very carefully, fearing the mechanism that would destroy its contents. She succeeds, revealing a scroll, not a map, but a second cryptex, smaller and made of black onyx. The surprise is total. Saunier has doubled the protection, reinforcing the dualist symbolism. Langdon examines the new poem written on the scroll. The first line offers a clear clue. In the city of London, buried by the Pope, lies a knight. The rest of the poem suggests that the second cryptex's key lies in a specific tomb in London. Though they can't immediately identify the knight, T-Bing insists he knows which crypt to search. As the plane nears Biggin Hill, the Kent police rush toward the airport. Time is running out, but the secret is getting closer. Chapter 79. While Fash travels to London, Collett remains at Chateau Valette with the investigation team. The collected evidence, a Silas, symbols of the chalice and blade, and a mysterious document, seems unconnected. However, a photo with strange notes about feminine cathedral architecture catches his attention. He also finds multiple copies of a dossier titled Les Dossiers Secrets, listing the Grand Masters of the Priory of Sion, including names like Botticelli, Da Vinci, Newton, and Victor Hugo. Then he receives a call from André Vernet. Recognizing his voice as that of the armored truck driver who helped Langdon and Sophie escape, Collett becomes suspicious when Vernet hangs up abruptly. Rather than alerting Fash, Collett decides to investigate independently, requesting all available Interpol files on Vernet and the Zurich Depository Bank, hoping to achieve personal glory. Chapter 80. As the plane begins its descent into the misty hills of Kent, T-Bing prepares for arrival with passports and cash to bribe the customs officer. He plans to claim he's traveling with a famous French artist whose identity must be protected. However, the pilot receives instructions to land at the main terminal due to an alleged fuel leak. T-Bing suspects a trap. Remy appears armed, and T-Bing instructs him to remain on the plane with Silas. Sophie warns that transporting a hostage across borders is a crime. T-Bing dismisses this, trusting his lawyers. Langdon suggests surrendering, but T-Bing rejects the idea, noting they're all implicated. Sophie proposes changing airports, but the maneuver would be too risky. T-Bing heads to the cockpit to negotiate an alternative. The landing gear descends. They are about to face their fate. Chapter 81. At Biggin Hill Airport, Simon Edwards anxiously awaits the arrival of Sir Lee T-Bing's jet, alerted by French police about potential fugitives on board. The plane lands and, disobeying instructions, heads toward a private hangar. Armed and hidden, the police surround the jet. T-Bing disembarks, feigning confusion, claiming he has an urgent medical appointment and denying that there are other passengers. Despite his denial, the British inspector orders a search of the aircraft but finds no one. Humiliated, he allows T-Bing and his butler Remy to leave in their limousine. As they depart, it's revealed that Langdon, Sophie, and a bound albino monk are hidden in the back of the vehicle. T-Bing's ruse has succeeded. Now, aboard the Jaguar, they regroup, regain their strength, and resume discussion about the poem that will lead them to the next clue, the Knight's Tomb. Chapter 82. During the drive towards central London, Teabing guides Langdon and Sophie through the interpretation of the new poem. The key seems to lie in a knight's tomb, buried by the Pope in the city. Teabing hints it refers to a Templar who fell into disgrace with the church. The trio deduce the poem alludes to the Temple Church, built by the Templars in honor of Solomon's Temple. Teabing describes its location on Fleet Street and its circular design, a pagan symbol that defied Rome. As they approach the destination, Sophie and Langdon discuss the Sangreal documents, debating whether they should be made public. Langdon explains the value of religion as metaphor rather than literal truth and questions the impact of revealing information that contradicts established beliefs. Sophie listens silently, recognizing the moral complexity of what they may uncover in the tomb. Chapter 83. Langdon, Sophie, and Teabing arrive at the Temple Church before opening hours. To gain entry, Teabing pretends to be a British noble accompanied by supposed descendants of Sir Christopher Wren, claiming they must scatter ashes per an ancestral mandate. The altar boy, confused and afraid of making a mistake, lets them in. Inside, Teabing jokes about his theatrical skills while the trio explores the temple, impressed by its austerity. Teabing explains the architectural and financial symbolism of the church, a Templar center and precursor to the modern banking system. Langdon marvels at 10 stone effigies of knights, 5 on each side, all different and in varied postures. Tension rises as they suspect one of these figures hides the key to opening the cryptex. The circular layout, gargoyles, and symbolism of the place support the idea that priory rituals were once held there. The crucial moment seems near. Chapter 84. While the others search the temple church, Remy stops the limousine in a secluded alley and, after pouring himself a vodka, approaches Silas. Pretending an assassination plot, he releases Silas from his bindings and offers him a drink to improve circulation. Silas, confused, believes God has saved him. Remy reveals that he also serves the teacher, though he is not the teacher himself, and that the teacher deeply admires Silas. Together, they must complete the mission. Meanwhile, Fash arrives at Biggin Hill and finds blood near the plane. He questions the pilot and learns that Langdon and Sophie hid something in the safe. He demands it be opened. Fash then receives a call from Bishop Aringarosa, who unexpectedly is now en route to London. Both men feel they're losing control. As the police try to track the limousine, the true power game unfolds in the shadows, with betrayals, cover-ups, and a new course set by Remy and Silas. Chapter 85. Inside the temple church, Sophie inspects the effigies in search of clues. The knights lie in stone, all unique, but none seem incomplete until she discovers a tomb without a sculpture, just a smooth sarcophagus. She calls Teabing and Langdon, who are surprised by the anomaly. The knight's absence contradicts the poem. The altar boy, now suspicious they aren't there to scatter ashes, interrupts and reveals that the effigies are not real tombs, but symbolic statues without actual bodies. Teabing is disoriented. He believed this was the Priory's epicenter in London. Reviewing the poem again, they begin to wonder if Jacques Saunière made a mistake. At that moment, the altar boy hears a noise at the entrance. He goes to check and finds a man in a tuxedo. Before he can react, Silas grabs him and Remy threatens him with a gun. They force him to flee, leaving the church free for their plan, as danger descends on the Grail seekers. Chapter 86. Silas appears silently in the church and takes Sophie hostage, demanding the cryptex. Langdon holds it up, threatening to destroy it unless his companions are released. Meanwhile, Remy watches from the shadows, concerned the plan is veering off course. Despite the teacher's orders not to kill or intervene directly, he decides to act, fearing failure. Emerging armed, he aims at Teabing and forces Langdon to hand over the cryptex. Tension peaks when Remy fires into the ceiling to prove his seriousness. With the cylinder in hand, Silas and Remy escape, taking Teabing hostage. Sophie demands to know whom they serve, but Remy only says the truth will surprise her. As the Grail's threat looms, the teacher's loyal followers take the lead, leaving Langdon and Sophie stunned in the church. Chapter 87. At Chateau Valette, Collet investigates Vernet and Remy's backgrounds with his team. While Vernet appears to be an exemplary citizen, Remy's shady past raises concerns. The most shocking find occurs in a shed, where they uncover a hidden loft. Inside, they find a highly sophisticated surveillance center, invisible microphones, portable hard drives, and radio frequency transmitters. Everything is set up to secretly record, store, and transmit data. The team deduces it's a professional spy installation used to monitor key figures, including Saunier. Collet's surprise grows when he sees a diagram of an articulated knight identical to one in Saunier's office, with notes on hiding microphones. This confirms someone had been spying on the Grand Master for a long time. The case is no longer just about murder. It's a meticulously planned conspiracy involving high-level espionage, with many culprits still hidden in the shadows. Chapter 88. After Teabing's abduction, Langdon and Sophie enter the temple station. Distressed, they debate how to rescue their friend. Sophie decides to contact the London police, hoping to complicate the captor's plans. While waiting on the line, she's surprised when Captain Fash answers. He admits he made a mistake pursuing Langdon and now believes in his innocence, begging them to go to a police station for protection. Sophie is confused by his change in attitude, and before hanging up, she reveals that Remy has kidnapped Teabing. Fash insists the call is not secure, just as the train arrives at the platform. Langdon and Sophie jump aboard, knowing they have no time to waste. Fash's revelation shifts the case. It suggests that Langdon is not the real enemy, but someone far more hidden and dangerous. Chapter 89. Fash examines the cryptex found in Teabing's box and discovers it's empty. Though disappointed, he receives a call from Vernet, who reports Langdon and Sophie for stealing the box and its contents. Fash reassures him the bank will face no media fallout. However, he senses Vernet's concern is unusually intense for a mere object, which makes him suspect something more valuable is involved. While Fash doesn't reveal what he notes Vernet is more worried about the bank's image than the item itself. He promises to protect both the box and the institution's reputation. As Fash continues piecing things together, he realizes all paths lead to the same point: the Grail. The puzzle pieces begin aligning, exposing a more complex web than expected, where every character plays a crucial role in a much larger conspiracy. Chapter 90. Collet and his team review recordings found in the Chateau Valette loft and discover that high-profile individuals, including Jacques Saunier, were spied on for months. The shock intensifies when Collet hears his own voice in one of the recordings, proof that he, too, was under surveillance. Among documents and photos, they find a replica of the articulated knight from Saunier's office, with instructions for concealing microphones. This confirms that his office was a key part of the surveillance system. The lead technician confirms all devices are state-of-the-art, installed by someone with expert knowledge. With each discovery, Collet realizes Saunier's murder is tied to a complex web of monitoring and manipulation. This network not only spies but influences powerful people and was likely trying to control access to the Grail's secret. The mystery continues to deepen. Chapter 91. While escaping with Teabing in the limousine, Silas feels the mission is nearly complete. Remy assures him the hostage is well secured and won't be heard. Soon, the teacher calls and congratulates Silas, but surprisingly instructs him to get out of the car and let Remy deliver the cryptex. Though disappointed, Silas obeys and heads to the Opus Dei Center. He senses something is wrong but resigns himself. Privately, the teacher speaks with Remy and hides his true intentions. While acknowledging the butler's help, he also sees him as a liability for having acted independently. He gives clear instructions: drop Silas near Opus Dei and meet at St. James's Park. Remy has no idea he's now a disposable pawn. The teacher has begun tying up loose ends, and Silas's loyalty is no longer enough to guarantee survival. The betrayal is underway. Chapter 92. Langdon and Sophie arrive at King's College in search of the tomb described in the poem. They are received by librarian Pamela Gedham, who recognizes Langdon and agrees to help. They show her the verses, and she begins searching the massive database of the Institute of Systematic Theology Research. After getting thousands of irrelevant results, Sophie reveals the full poem. Gedham, an expert in religious studies, immediately deduces they are searching for the Grail. Despite her questions, she respects their silence and refines the search with more specific terms. As the system processes the information, she offers them tea and promises a clearer answer in 15 minutes. Gedham's cooperation opens a new door for Langdon and Sophie, who now rely on technology to get closer to the mystery of the tomb and the orb, keys to uncovering the Grail's secret. Chapter 93. Following Remy's instructions, Silas heads to the Opus Dei Center in London. Under the rain and still wounded from his recent captivity, he arrives seeking rest and redemption. Welcomed by a kind numerary, he requests shelter for a day and is admitted without hesitation. He feels relieved to leave his weapon behind, tossing it into a storm drain, and begins his prayer routine in a sparse cell. Meanwhile, the London police, tipped off, call the center asking about an albino monk. The numerary, unaware of the situation, confirms Silas's presence. He's told not to inform Silas and to wait for reinforcements. Silas, unaware of the looming danger, rests believing he has fulfilled his mission. He does not know his hiding place has become a trap, and his religious fervor keeps him calm while justice is already on its way. Chapter 94. At St. James's Park, Remy hands the cryptex to the teacher, believing he's reached the pinnacle of his new life. They share a toast, but the cognac is poisoned. Remy begins to choke, realizing too late he's been betrayed. The teacher watches his agony without remorse, having planned this from the start to ensure there were no ties to the surveillance or murder. Now free of witnesses, he heads with the cryptex to a sacred place, convinced he has correctly identified the tomb mentioned in the poem. He believes the orb mentioned will be the final key. Meanwhile, Aringarosa lands in London and, upon learning Silas is at Opus Dei, demands to be taken there. As one nears the heart of the secret, the other desperately seeks his protege. The net tightens, and the climax approaches with intensity. Chapter 95. At the King's College Library, Langdon and Sophie continue searching the database for clues about the Holy Grail. Amid many irrelevant results, one catches their attention: the biography of Sir Isaac Newton. At first, it seems unrelated to Saunier's poem, but Langdon discovers that Alexander Pope presided over Newton's burial, solving the riddle's double meaning, buried by the Pope. This confirms Newton is the knight referenced in the poem. While they await more results, Langdon reflects on tarot symbolism and how it might hold a hidden message about feminine divinity. As the searches progress, names and symbols associated with the Grail multiply. Finally, a text about Newton provides the definitive clue. His tomb in London's Westminster Abbey is the next destination. There they hope to find the password that will open the cryptex and reveal the Priory's most closely guarded secret. Chapter 96. Silas wakes abruptly in his cell at the Opus Dei Center, gripped by a premonition just before police agents storm in to arrest him. Acting swiftly and violently, the albino monk hides, attacks the officers, and escapes nearly naked, creating chaos throughout the residence. Amid screams, shattered objects, and horrified staff, Silas is shot in the side but still manages to fight back and flee into the rain-soaked night. Clashing with another officer outside, he seizes a weapon in a brutal struggle. Just as the chaos seems to consume everything, a familiar figure appears, Bishop Aringarosa. But in the confusion, Silas accidentally shoots him, inflicting a serious wound. Overwhelmed by guilt and despair, the monk screams into the rainy darkness, his bloodied form vanishing as he spirals toward a fate that now feels beyond his control. Chapter 97. Langdon and Sophie arrive at Westminster Abbey, a solemn place where Isaac Newton lies. The setting is quiet and nearly empty, unlike the tourist crowds they expected. While Sophie remains cautious, Langdon reflects on what the tomb represents, the epicenter of the final clue. As they search for a guide, They realize the abbey's vastness makes finding a specific tomb complex. Unbeknownst to them, the teacher is already there, observing Newton's grave. Fascinated by the large orb crowning the monument, he tries to interpret Saunière's poem's final line, but the abundance of astronomical symbols confuses him. When he spots Langdon and Sophie approaching, he decides it's time to act. He plans to use them to help decipher the cryptex. He selects the chapter house, a secluded area of the abbey, as the site for an ambush that will alter the course of the quest. Chapter 98. Langdon and Sophie move through the abbey toward Newton's tomb. Upon arrival, they're surprised by the numerous celestial orbs carved into the monument, complicating the deciphering of Saunière's message. While examining the sculpted books and zodiac signs, Sophie finds a chilling message written in charcoal. Someone claims to have T-Bing and instructs them to go to the chapter house. Langdon deduces the enemy doesn't yet know the password, which gives them an advantage. Despite the risk, they follow the message into a construction-closed area. There, they find the chapter house door open. Once inside, they realize too late it's a trap. The door closes behind them, and to their horror, they find themselves staring down the barrel of a gun held by none other than Sir Li T-Bing, alive and in full control, revealing his true identity as the teacher. Chapter 99. Li T-Bing reveals himself as the teacher and confesses to orchestrating the entire conspiracy. He justifies his actions by claiming the Priory of Sion betrayed its duty by not revealing the Grail's secret. He says Saunière and the others were accomplices in silence and that their deaths were necessary. Sophie confronts him, heartbroken over his betrayal and the accusations against her grandfather. T-Bing also reveals that her family's deaths were no accident, implying the church eliminated her loved ones to protect the secret. He insists the world deserves to know the truth and that the three of them must complete the mission. Handing the cryptex to Langdon, he hopes he will cooperate. Shocked, Langdon refuses to help. T-Bing persists, believing they're destined to discover the password together. Sophie rejects his offer, vowing to bring justice. Finally, T-Bing points his weapon at Langdon, forcing him to choose between joining the cause or facing him. Chapter 100. Wounded by Silas's bullet, Bishop Aringarosa is carried to a hospital by the monk himself, both enveloped in physical and emotional pain. As Silas runs through the rainy streets begging for help, Aringarosa recalls the events that led to this tragic outcome. 5 months earlier, at the Vatican, he was told Opus Dei would lose its status as a prelature, a devastating blow. Soon after, he received a mysterious call from someone identifying as the teacher, who promised to restore Opus Dei's power in exchange for his help locating the Grail. Desperate, Aringarosa agreed. Now, he realizes he was manipulated. In the hospital, as doctors fight to save his life, the bishop asks Silas for forgiveness for leading him down this path. With his last strength, he pleads for no revenge, urging him instead to embrace forgiveness, reminding him it is God's greatest gift. Chapter 101. Inside the chapter house, Robert Langdon faces an impossible decision as T-Bing points a gun at him and Sophie remains in danger. Avoiding a direct answer, Langdon resorts to silence and pretends to cooperate, moving toward the stained glass windows for inspiration. Reflecting on Grail symbolism, he contemplates its link to feminine divinity. T-Bing, certain of his triumph, recalls how he manipulated Silas to eliminate Saunière and obtain the cryptex. Sophie, firmly opposing him, challenges Langdon, who responds by tossing the cryptex into the air, pretending he will drop it. In a desperate move, T-Bing catches it but shatters the inner vial, releasing vinegar. Believing he has destroyed the secret, he sees the word poemum on the dials, the correct password. Langdon pulls the intact papyrus from his coat, and when Fash arrives with British police, they arrest T-Bing. Langdon reaffirms the lesson he has learned. Only the worthy can find the Grail. Chapter 102. Wounded by a bullet in his side, Silas finds shelter in the mist of Kensington Gardens. He kneels on the wet grass, feeling the rain purify him as warm blood flows from his body. In the enveloping fog, pain turns into comfort, and he feels his body fading like a ghost. As he prays, Silas asks forgiveness for his sins and pleads for mercy upon his mentor, Bishop Aringarosa, hoping he won't die before redemption. With each raindrop, he feels lighter, as if the mist could lift him to heaven. Hope and resignation intertwine as he utters his final prayer. Our Lord is kind and charitable. With this certainty, Silas surrenders to death, believing in divine mercy and hoping for redemption for himself and for those who still live, closing his life in an image of calm, rain, and celestial forgiveness. Chapter 103. Bezu-Fash leaves the interrogation room, convinced T-Bing will feign madness to avoid conviction, though he admires his cunning. T-Bing's meticulously crafted plan used innocence and convenient deaths to preserve anonymity. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Bishop Aringarosa, recovering, reflects sorrowfully on his involvement. Upon hearing of Silas's death, he feels guilt and betrayal. He speaks to Fash and begs him to distribute the Vatican bonds among the victims' families. Fash, moved by the gesture, agrees. At a press conference, Lieutenant Collett defends Fash's actions, suggesting that the public pursuit of Langdon and Sophie was a strategy to catch the real culprit. Later, Fash confronts Aringarosa about rerouting the plane to London, and the bishop, ashamed, admits his desperation. As they part ways, Fash considers retirement, while Aringarosa, hopeful and filled with renewed faith, wonders where the future will take him. Chapter 104. Robert and Sophie arrive at Rosslyn Chapel, a temple rich in symbolism reflecting the convergence of religious and pagan traditions. The clue in Saunier's poem has led them there, and though Langdon doubts its relevance, he acknowledges that Rosslyn holds mysteries beyond his grasp. Upon entering, the temple's symbolic wealth overwhelms him. Stars, crosses, pentacles, and pillars modeled after Solomon's temple. Sophie, unsettled, feels she's been there before. Upon seeing the pillars, she confirms childhood memories. With the help of a local guide, they discover the rosewood box is identical to one belonging to the boy's grandmother. Langdon deduces that Sophie is his sister and that both belong to the Merovingian bloodline. Guided by her memories, Sophie enters the neighboring house and reunites with her grandmother, who tearfully reveals the truth hidden for years. Sophie and her brother embrace, and for the first time in a long while they feel at home. Chapter 105. On Rosslyn's porch, Langdon speaks with Marie Chauvel, Sophie's grandmother, who thanks him for protecting her. Langdon listens as she recounts the Merovingian lineage of Sophie and her brother, protected by the Priory after their parents died in a suspicious accident. Separated for their safety, Marie and her grandson lived in hiding, while Sophie was raised by Saunier in Paris. Marie explains that the Priory never intended to reveal the Grail. Its value lies in mystery and the message it carries. When Langdon mentions Saunier's poem, Marie guides him into the chapel and reveals that the sword and chalice are symbolized in the floor as the Star of David. Though Langdon deduces the Grail lies beneath their feet, Marie confirms it has already been moved. Reuniting with Sophie, Langdon shares his wish to see her again. Sophie accepts a future date in Florence, sealing the promise of a new beginning with a kiss. Epilogue. Robert Langdon awakens startled in the Hotel Ritz in Paris after 2 days of uninterrupted sleep, prompted by a sudden intuition that drives him outside. Guided by the ancient rose line that crosses Paris, he follows the bronze medallions to the Louvre, convinced that one final truth awaits. He crosses the passage Richelieu and stops before the Louvre pyramid, but his attention turns to the inverted pyramid hidden underground. Langdon recalls Saunier's poem and realizes that each symbol fits: the chalice and the blade, the master's art, the starry vault. Moved, he descends to the subterranean pyramid and contemplates the two structures whose tips nearly touch. The sacred, symbolic surroundings envelop him, and feeling he has reached the heart of the mystery, he kneels in silence beneath the stars. In that moment, he senses the presence of the sacred, the ancestral voice of the lost goddess whispering to him from the depths. That's the end of the Da Vinci Code, a story where symbols rewrite history and faith hides in plain sight. Langdon and Sophie uncover that the Holy Grail isn't a relic, but a legacy of blood and silence. Thank you for watching this illustrated summary filled with art, danger, and revelation. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, like, and share this journey with fellow seekers of truth. Tell me in the comments, what if the Grail was never lost, just misunderstood?